From the CyberHub bunker in studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, here we are, folks. Thursday, January 12th, 2025, our last show for the week. I hope y'all are having a great week. I'm still at the Teammate CISO Village. I'm pre-recording the show, obviously. So a few announcements before we get started. One, it's late. I had something that I'm not really digesting very well, and I'm not drinking. So for anyone wondering, I'm not drinking. Just if I may accidentally seem like I'm about to, I'm not. This isn't drinking. I ate something that isn't sitting well in my stomach as I record the show this morning. So thank you all for tuning in. All right, a few really important things I want to talk about. We will not be having a show on Monday. So I'm going to try and pre-record something, but Monday's a travel day. I'm headed to I'm traveling on Monday, and it's a long trip, so just kind of putting it out there. No show on Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday of next week. So just putting that out there. We may or may not pre-record a show on Monday. That all depends. It all really just depends. We'll see what happens. But packed show for all of y'all today. Let's get right into it. Whatever you're drinking this morning, coffee cup cheers, y'all. Coffee cup cheers. Let me know in the comments. And thank you for all your messages. So let's get into this, because the Teammate CISO Village here is absolutely unbelievable. Today was absolutely fantastic. And a shout out to Jason Clinton, the CISO over at Anthropic, for an unbelievable session today on AI, and the stuff they're doing with AI. Just absolutely fascinating. So shout out to Jason. But here we go. Let's get right into this. Erie Insurance and Erie Indemnity companies disclosing a weekend cyber attack is behind some of their business disruption and platform outages on their website. Erie Indemnity companies, the management company for Erie Insurance Group, which is a property and casualty insurer with 6 million active policies. That's not a very large insurance company. Obviously, when you think of like the big ones, and I'm not going to name names, but it's still significant. Erie Insurance began experiencing outages and business disruptions on Saturday, June 7th. Customers being unable to log into the customer portal, reporting difficulties making claims, or even receiving paperwork from the company. They filed an 8K with the SEC just a few days ago about detecting unusual network activity. They're working with law enforcement, conducting a forensic analysis, and they don't know whether or not this will have any sort of material breach, any sort of material impact on the company. The company said that if you want to initiate a claim, you can call their 800 number at 800-367-3743. And they also said customer care is still available at 1-800-458-0811. I feel like, if you grew up, so today's theme was 90s, 30 years to being a CISO. That's the Teammate CISO Village theme. They had a 90s parties. And if you've ever felt old in your life today and this evening before doing this podcast, you start to feel old when you start to hear music and you go, wow, I listened to this when I was in middle school or high school, and you go, wow, it's been that long, and wow, we're old. And you never want to admit you're getting old until that hits you, and that hit me today. And right now it hit me again when I said the 800 number. So sharing with all of y'all a little bit of my personal experience here. So there's that for a breach. Cyber criminals are having a really bad time in Southeast Asia, where 7 law enforcement agencies coordinated an operation to shut down dozens of scammed call centers and arrested more than 1,800 people involved. This was led by the Singapore police force, with authorities in Hong Kong, South Korea, Malaysia, the Maldives, Thailand, and the island of Macau, executing a month-long operation in April and May. They investigated 33,900 suspects believed to be involved in at least 9,200 scam cases, ranging from fraudulent investment schemes to dating apps to government impersonations to job websites and everything you could possibly imagine. Now, mind you, they've done these, and attacks are still rising. In total, officials believe victims had about $225 million stolen from them, about 32,000 bank accounts linked to the scams, sometimes known as pig butchering, and they froze around $20 million was seized as part of the operation. All in all, Singapore arrested 106 people locally who were responsible for 1,300 scams that netted them around $30 million. Police in the island nation were also able to seize nearly $8 million of the $30 million of the stolen funds taken from 714 bank accounts. Again, a drop in the ocean, but still something. Those arrested are facing a range of charges related to hacking, stolen government IDs, and more. And I believe Singapore has a death penalty. So, a great deterrent is to execute some of these guys. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying you need deterrents. That's one of those. That's how you eliminate some of this stuff. Instead of just sending him to jail or making him repay all of the money. And then, 30 years in jail, that helps a little bit. A transnational threat requires a transnational response, and no single jurisdiction has an adequate answer to this scourge, but they're collectively stronger, according to the David Chow, the senior Singaporean police officials, talking about this. And again, he's 100% right here. This is where international cooperation really plays a big part. Hong Kong police said that operation began last year, involved at least 10 countries, including Australia, Canada, and Indonesia. We know, and we've talked about this here on the show, some of these scam centers in Cambodia and Myanmar and all these places where they're scamming people into coming in for job opportunities, and then they're really put into slavery. A lot of these are run by Chinese nationals. They're, in fact, funded by the CCP. Some of these are also funded by Taiwan businesses and other businesses who are looking to scam the middle class in China, because China itself has a problem. China doesn't talk about it a lot, but China has this own very problem. India, for their end, partnering with Japan, raided 19 locations and arrested 6 men, taking down 2 illegal call centers and seizing troves of digital infrastructure. So all in all, that's starting to take a toll there. Fortinet and Ivanti announcing fixes for over a dozen vulnerabilities across their product portfolios, including multiple high-severity flaws. CVE's 2025 in Ivanti's 5353, CVE 2025-22463, and 22455 exist in the hard-coded Ivanti Workspace Control update. And that's version 10.19 or 0.0.0 and prior, would allow authenticated attackers to decrypt stored SQL credentials and environment passwords. Fortinet, for their end, releasing 14 patches on Tuesday to address 1 high and 13 medium vulnerabilities. The high severity issue is CVE 2025-31104. It's an OS command injection bug in 4080C that could allow an authenticated attacker to execute arbitrary code using crafted HTTP requests. So you want to make sure you get those patched up. Former members tied to the Basta ransomware operation have been involved, sticking to their tried and tested approach of email bombing and Teams phishing, Microsoft Teams phishing, to establish persistence access to target networks. These attackers have even introduced a Python script execution alongside these techniques, using a curl request to fetch and deploy malicious payloads, according to ReliaQuest, in a report shared with our friends over at the Hacker News. The development of a sign that threat actors are continuing to pivot and regroup, despite the Black Basta brand suffering a huge blow and decline after the public leaks of its internal chat logs earlier this February. As recently as last month, ReliaQuest's customers in finance and insurance, and even the construction sectors, have been targeted using Teams phishing by masquerading as help desk personnel. This is why one of the things I always look at when you're managing IT and security is, could you potentially deviate specific things off of Teams? So Teams is great for collaboration, but is that really how you want the help desk to contact your employees? Would you rather not use a ticketing system within your existing environment and have the call initiated not through a Teams message, but rather a structured call utilizing Teams as a video conference platform to make the call, where you're looking at a person across from you who, I'm a firm believer in name tags and kind of identification methods for help desk, especially given the amount of fraud that happens on the help desk side, to do this for organizations. So it's not far-fetched. Again, Awareness 2.0 involves stepping away from what we know and going into the realm of what we see happening, and not turning a blind eye to it, and not being content with just doing something even though it's broken. That's the definition of insanity. It requires us to kind of update our processes. Some security problems are solved through better business processes. And as cybersecurity professionals, we are business enablers. That is our role. That is what we get paid to do. It doesn't matter if you're a security analyst, an engineer, an architect, a CISO, a VP, a deputy CISO, a consultant, an auditor. You're a business enabler. Your role is to enable the company to operate securely and safely in whatever environment it is. It's an ethos. It's a method. It's a belief of understanding that you can't just be a cost center that says no, that you've got to say yes, and here's how to do it the right way. That's something that we often forget. And a lot of people talk about it, but very few really execute it. So when you see these types of attacks, when we see threat actors continue to do something that's working, our job as business enablers is to adjust the business process, to take care of it, and then find tools that help limit the threat or eliminate it if possible. And you can't really do that unless you block other domains from getting into your teams. And sometimes you can't do that because you're collaborating with other companies within your supply chain, and that becomes really, really difficult. And again, there's ways to do this. Just don't need to be lazy. You've really got to understand the tools you have. You've got to understand the full stack, and you've got to dig deep. And with AI today and the amount of knowledge that you can pull out of AI, any person who says, I didn't know my stack could do that, is just not asking the right questions. And get back to asking those good questions. We'll continue moving from a preachy to threat intelligence firms' great noise warning of a coordinated brute force activity targeting Apache Tomcat manager interfaces. The company is saying they're observing a surge in brute force and login attempts that started on June 5th of this year, an indication that this could be deliberate efforts to identify and access exposed Tomcat services at scale. To that end, 295 unique IPs have been found to be engaged in some of these brute force attempts against the Tomcat manager, with all of them being classified as malicious. 188 unique IPs have been recorded, a majority of them located in the US, the UK, Germany, Netherlands, and Singapore. In a similar vein, 298 unique IPs were observed conducting login attempts against the manager instances. Of the 246 IP addresses flagged in the last 24 hours, all of them were categorized as malicious. So something to keep in mind. And the reason they're doing this is because they obviously have a way to really take over your Tomcat. There's something happening in the Tomcat manager that they're trying to get access to. So you want to make sure you tighten access there. So users are advised to change default usernames and passwords, disable remote access if it's not required, or restrict access with firewalls and VPNs, and keep your firmware up to date. A new attack dubbed a Smart Attack is using smartwatches as a covert ultrasonic signal to receive as a signal receiver to exfiltrate data from air-gapped systems. The air-gapped systems are in energy, government facilities, weapons, nuclear power plants are isolated from external networks. That's to prevent malware infections and data theft. Despite this, they remain vulnerable to compromise through insider threats like rogue employees using USB drives or even state-sponsored supply chain attacks. The Smart Attack was devised by an Israeli university researcher led by Mordechai Guri, a specialist in the field of covert attack channels who previously presented methods to leak data using LCD screen noise, RAM modules, network card LEDs, USF drive RF signals, SATA cables, and power supplies. I love Mordechai's stuff. I'm going to Tel Aviv University Cyber Week. I think Mordechai's speaking. I believe I saw him on the speaker list there. If he's not, then he's probably going to get a message from me to go hang out and geek out with Mordechai. He just has an unbelievable way to show how stuff works. The Smart Attack and how it works requires malware to somehow infect an air-gapped computer to gather sensitive information like keystrokes, encryption keys, and credentials. It can then use the computer's built-in speaker to emit ultrasonic signals to the environment by using a binary frequency shift keying BFSK. The audio signal frequencies can be modulated to represent binary data, aka ones and zeros. A frequency of 18.5 gigahertz represents 0, while 19.5 gigahertz denotes 1. For those who don't know, Brian Penny's been on the show before, the founder of Cloak. If he's watching today's show, he's going to geek out over this story. Frequencies at this range are inaudible to humans, but they can still be caught by a smartwatch microphone worn by a person nearby. The sound monitoring app in the smartwatch applies signal processing techniques to detect frequency shifts and demodulate the encoded signal, while integrity tests can also be applied. The final exfiltration can take place via Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or even cellular connectivity. Again, how likely is this to happen? Not very likely. To know that this is something there, yep. Ultrasonic jamming through emission of broadband noise is something you want to have in those facilities if you don't already have it. Okay, so the UK has a problem. For those who don't know, the UK has a lot of problems. But the UK has some significant problems with free speech and user rights. The government there is constantly encroaching at this. They're arresting people for Facebook posts. You're allowed to insult one population, but not another one. And now they're going after 4chan. Now, look, I, like many of you, think 4chan is garbage. It's a white supremacist site, right, left. I don't really care. Don't care. Now, do I like everything that's on 4chan? Absolutely not. Do I support closing 4chan or investigating it for the hate speech that happens there? No, I don't. I think if you're a hateful human being and you want to have a platform to spread your hateful message, you should have that right. And the reason I believe that is because I think that in the battle, good ideas always win. So people may get dragged into something and go down a specific path and go down a rabbit hole. And eventually the pendulum always swings. The pendulum always swings. The pendulum never stays on one side. And people will eventually swing to the other side. And the swing, when you limit free speech, when you stop people from being able to express their ideas, the pendulum goes further towards that side. And the swing back takes longer to happen. Because why are you shutting down my speech if I wasn't right? That's an argument that a lot of people believe because conspiracy theories online only explode like they did in the town square before the internet and like they did in specific books and conversations. But we just didn't hear about it. It wasn't as widespread as the internet has made it. So the regulator in the UK, Britain's communication regulator, Ofcom, is announcing their intention to investigate the notorious image board 4chan alongside several other sites for hosting illegal content and failing to verify user ages. The investigation will be launched under the country's Online Safety Act, which introduced a number of safety and security requirements on platforms to prevent children from accessing inappropriate content like pornography and to remove illegal content. According to the regulator, it's received complaints about illegal content on 4chan, while the site's administrators have failed to respond to requests for information. Ofcom said it's also investigating several other sites, including a pornographic video service and several file-sharing providers that may have shared potential child sexual abuse material. Now, you hear this and you go, well, all they're trying to do is do child abuse, sexual, stop pedophilia. Amazing. But if you're going to do that, then you've got to go to Instagram and TikTok and everywhere else where you see pedophilia relevant, where they're sexualizing kids at the young age of 8 and 7, because that's a form of pedophilia. So the fact that you're not doing that, the fact that you're only picking specific things to me is picking on a side and going after their ability to share that. Now, if it's illegal and 4chan has servers in the UK and there's a UK law, by all means, boo-boo, you pass the law, you got to comply with it. And if you work in that country, you can do that. But I don't believe 4chan has any sort of infrastructure in the UK. So this is more likely them trying to pressure 4chan like they did Telegram and other organizations. Obviously, there's a free speech battle happening there, but that's not the only thing going on in the UK. WhatsApp is moving to join the Apple encryption fight with the UK government, where the UK government has asked Apple and WhatsApp to give them access to encrypted messages in encrypted content in users' iCloud accounts in order to comply with legal warrants. It follows a judgment back in April where the Investigatory Powers Tribunal, the only court in the country that can hear certain national security cases, confirmed that Apple was suing the British government over the secret legal order. WhatsApp chief Will Cathcart stated the Meta-owned messaging app has applied to intervene in the case to protect people's privacy globally. Yep. One reason of many why you got to wonder what's happening to free speech when the government can secretly get a warrant to look at your iCloud or look at your encrypted information that you're hosting on the cloud. Now, if it's national security and it's terror related and it saves lives, we get it. But this is so broad that it doesn't make any sort of sense. So the fight there continues and will continue for some time. All right. Final news here. Sorry, I've gone over time, but Securononics on Wednesday announcing a deal to acquire threat Quantient to boost plans of an all-in-one security operations stack. The financial terms were not disclosed, but Threat Quantient is a late-stage Virginia startup behind ThreatQ, Threat Intel platform. It raised $90 million across 8 rounds since it was founded in 2013. So the two are there connecting more consolidation. And Sierra raised their Series E at $540 million, bringing their total raise to 1.3 billion and valuing the company at 6 billion. Congratulations to Tom Segev, Ira Winkler, and the entire team over at Sierra for another great one. This was backed by the Jordians, the Green Oaks, and Lightspeed Venture Partners, alongside Accel, Kochu, CyberStarts, Redpoint, Sapphire Ventures, Sequoia, and Spark Capital. So well done to Sierra there and the team. Congratulations and good luck as you expand. That's it for our show this morning. We'll, again, maybe or may not have a show on Monday. I'll only know Saturday night. If there is, you'll see me post something. If you're not following us on social media like LinkedIn, Instagram, please make sure to go do that right now, or X, and then follow our website, cyberhubbpodcast.com. You'll probably get a message. If there's no show, there'll be an email going out Monday morning saying no show today. We'll be back tomorrow. Till then, have a great rest of your day. Thank you all for tuning in, and most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.